Well, it can't be easy climbing to the top in a city like New York. So when you come from Nashville, Tennessee with zero connections, you've got to learn to hustle fast. 27 years later, Manhattan power agent Louise Phillips Forbes has brokered more than $2 billion in deals and leads a dynamic team at Halstead Properties. Maybe it's her southern charm and her ability to tell it like it is, or maybe it's her love of life, friends and family that set her apart in one of the world's most competitive real estate markets. This was a fun interview and I really enjoyed my time with Louise, and it's not hard to see how her natural skills and warm heart are winning new clients every day. I started out asking what inspired her to get into real estate.
Real estate came to me a little bit accidentally. I moved to New York from Nashville, Tennessee.
You're from Nashville?
Born and raised,
Really?
and I can get my accent going if you want me to.
Well, can you sing?
No, but I danced at the Grand Ole Opry, and my
Okay.
mama went to school with Minnie Pearl. Does that give me any brownie
wow,
points?
that's a lot of credibility right there. So sorry, I interrupted. Back to NYC and real estate.
Sidebar.
Yep,
but
sorry.
I moved to New York in 1988, and I injured myself dancing. And I found myself, like many people in real estate, doing 9 jobs before I got into real estate. And I'm somebody who recognized that I was really a people person. Said you would be great in real estate. And while I thought that real estate was truly about the architecture and the brick and mortar, it's really the business of people.
Of course.
And so that is what really blows my skirt up. And that is something that I'm grateful to be a part of every day.
Yeah. Well, it is an exciting world. So you're a wife, you're a mum, and you're this mega realtor at the same time. How do you do it all?
Oh, it takes a village. Takes a village. But, when you love what you do, I mean, as a younger individual, I experienced a lot of loss in my life. And, when you live every day to the fullest and you love what you do, it's not work.
Yeah.
It's just not. And you end up finding yourself attracting individuals because I'm more of like, I'm not a big promoter. It's taken, I would say if one of my biggest mistakes in the market, in my growth of my business was the buy-in to embracing marketing on steroids, which I have today.
Yeah.
But I wasn't comfortable putting myself out there. I wanted to attract individuals, not promote. And for myself, I just had to find the right balance.
That's interesting. What would you say? Here's a question without notice, because I did send you some questions prior to our interview with about 2 minutes warning. But what would you say is the best way or the most productive or the most effective way that you've been able to build your brand in the last, say, 5 years, your personal brand? My personal brand, I think that for all the agents that are listening, which I know you have a big following, and I came in with the business, as I said, in a prairie skirt and a leotard. I had no Rolodex. I had no It's
Rolodex.
an interesting visual.
Yeah, well, there you go. But I needed to know who I was. I wanted to own that I was Southern. I wanted to embrace it. Sometimes my Southern accent, still today when I'm uncomfortable in negotiations, my accent comes out and it's disarming for some people.
Yeah.
But knowing who you are and being grounded in myself and really, I determined, I was uncomfortable with the idea about being in a business to make money.
Yeah.
So when I determined that I could be of ultimate service in a very intimate personal experience, I ran with it.
Yeah.
It is the link that, gave me purpose. And, I don't really think of myself as a salesperson. I really feel I'm an educator.
Yeah.
And coming from just that basic philosophy is the first link to trust.
Yeah, it's
and that has been my
it?
greatest personal branding and really my mission, I would say.
Have you worked hard to build your following? Do you maintain a contact base like a database of your contacts, or do you do
Not
it out of
as
your black
well
book?
as
Or
not as well as I should, because I have over 12,000 contacts.
okay,
Personal, professional, industry people. One of the things that I learned early on, that buyers are here today, sellers are gone tomorrow, but every day we wake up, we have our industry peers.
yep,
And investing in those peers will give you so much fulfillment, and quite frankly, on the other side of a competitive bid, the deal.
yep, yep. Well, it's interesting the way the world works. I'm really interested in the online marketing space because it just seems to be getting bigger and bigger. And I'm looking at your beautiful website, made beautiful by some of your listings, which I'll talk about in a sec. But if you want to check this out, guys, it's Louise Phillips with 2 L's, Forbes, Forbes.com, and I'll put that link in the show notes, and you can check out this awesome looking website that Louise has built. Louise, tell me, how much inquiry are you getting online? I guess in a place like New York City, you'd be getting lots.
We have tremendous activity. As you can see, I am quite a lister, meaning
Yep.
I handle a number of exclusives. And by the way, on that building your brand and building and having goals, every time I have a listing, my goal is to make 3 transactions out of that deal.
Oh, yes. Yeah. I
So,
like this philosophy. I was just
number
speaking
one-
with somebody about this yesterday. Yes, please go on.
Number 1, selling the asset that I have there.
Uh-huh.
Number 2, hopefully selling my owner wherever they're going.
Yep.
And thirdly, making a connection with one individual through that process that I connect with emotionally, or that they connect with our style and our philosophy, that I can help them sell their home,
Yeah.
or buy a home. And I will tell you that if you have that in your forefront, it will be it will be interesting for one to track their business, because I track my business that way very, very closely. And you were talking about the online, as somebody who has a lot of exclusives, and as someone who is I try to be incredibly generous with knowledge to other brokers. My telephone number and email must be put in everybody's alarm or alert, because when I list something, literally my hits are 300, in the first 3 or 4 days.
Crikey,
often.
that's good. Yeah.
It's good.
Yeah.
And more and more we know that 93% of all people who are looking for homes are starting online, and we know that the eye candy of the visual opportunities that digitizing the market has given us, it's a powerful tool that we are really just starting to see that platform, and it's just exciting.
Yeah. Well, eye candy is a great way to describe one of your listings I'm looking at now on the Upper West Side on 617 West End Avenue. That's a stunning looking apartment on the 12th floor. Your attention to detail with, I guess I'll call it the art, the photography, which is really our selling point everywhere, is amazing. You obviously put a big emphasis on that, and I don't really know where I'm going with this question, but I do want to say most agents fluff it up.
Well, I will say that I appreciate you acknowledging that attention to detail, because I have, built a team. I was one of the first brokers in the 1990s to really start to build a team, because I really wanted to do business with people I had personal relationships with, and you can only be in so many places so many times. And so trying to curate a team where they could be an extension of myself, but quite frankly, they actually complement me, because their strengths are my weaknesses, and vice versa.
Yeah.
And if they have the same philosophy of being the educator and caring about, not focusing on the transaction, focusing on the right transaction, then you can let go of the control, because you're operating as a well-oiled machine.
Yeah.
And in that process of being the ultimate person of service for this incredibly stressful, exciting, and intimate experience is having within my team a director of public relations and marketing. And I don't list a listing without Rich walking through an extensive walkthrough with each owner, giving them a laundry list of things that we will help them do or suggest that they do, or we will do for them. How a house lives and how a home photographs are very, very different.
Yeah.
And having an individual who has 20 years in public relations as well as in the interior designer world, as well as luxury brands, is an asset that really has served me well.
Yeah, yeah. So let me go back to this Upper West Side listing. It's a listing, by the way. I'm going to put I'll put the link on the show notes as well. You're asking
please
4.8 for it. It's a gorgeous looking property. I've always had this fascination with New York City, being a country boy from Australia. I'm lucky enough to have been to New York a few times and toured around these streets in Tribeca and the Upper West Side and looked around and every time I go there, the listings seem to have be worth $1 million more or something. Have you seen a great increase in the last 10 years in prices?
Ray, I've been in the business for 27 years,
yeah.
and to watch what's happened. And I have one individual who I've sold 9 transactions for, and she actually retired her corporate job, became an entrepreneur, and we calculated that she made about $7 million in her real estate over 15 or 17 years.
Yeah.
And it's one of the greatest ways to build wealth.
It is, isn't it? It's crazy.
It truly is.
I can't remember the guy's name. If I was a really good podcaster and researcher, I'd be able to tell you, and you'd probably say, "Oh yeah, I know of this guy." But he bought a property in the 80s for $75,000 when he didn't have any money. He begged and borrowed and somehow did it. And that property's now worth $75 million. I mean, I don't know anything else that's grown like that. It's crazy, isn't it?
That is, and boy, do I wonder if he needs any children to adopt.
I'm not sure.
I don't know.
I'll find out his name and I'll send it to you. It was an interesting thing. I even forget where I saw it. It was just probably one of those 5 a.m. reading a New Yorker article on my iPhone or something that I found it. While we're talking about property, how would you advise a first-time investor who's looking to invest in Manhattan? Where are the hot spots right now?
Well, first, where isn't there a hot spot? There's some exciting things happening in New York City.
Maybe I should qualify it with a budget, like under $1 million. Can you buy under $1 million in NYC?
Absolutely. I will tell you that the market, we're talking all over, your listeners they stretch a long range of locations. But when I talk about, the lower portion of the market, that would be $500,000 to under $4 million.
Uh-huh.
That is the strongest market right now, because interest rates are on a rise, which is one of my predictions that we possibly talking about.
Yes.
And that for individuals who want to purchase, you can buy. I am in the process right now of doing 3 transactions. And again, these are all referral people who have bought and sold apartments for. They are now going to be buying, smaller units, and I'm selling their bigger units, and they're spending $500,000, $475,000 to $550,000, and we are in bidding wars.
Yeah.
So, because the buying power is still so magnificent, it is and let us not forget, across the United States, it is less expensive to own in 42 states than it is to buy out of our 50 states. Yeah,
interesting.
But there are some great opportunities all over the city. And, when you see things like Hudson Yards, which is the largest residential development project that is happening by the Related company, it is 17 million square feet of residential and commercial.
Wow.
They, in September and October, opened up their first residential building. And in 2 months, when nobody was making decisions pre-election, they did $440 million worth of business in 2 months.
Wow.
Went to contract.
Yeah.
We're turning investors away. So I think New York is always going to be a mecca for people who want to own a piece of the rock.
Yeah.
But there are opportunities. There are places in the Bronx and in Harlem where you can buy, beautiful 2 and 3 bedroom homes in Inwood for $500,000 to $800,000.
Yeah. Yeah. I want to get into some questions, but before I do, I think at last count, this podcast is listened to by people in, I think, over 140 countries now. So it's far and wide.
Wow.
And I also want to say that in my view and in the view of many global economic specialists, the US is still the economic furnace of the globe. So so much of what happens is the ripple effect from the States goes right around the world, and that's happened. Goodness, for the last 100 years, nothing has changed.
Yes.
So with that in mind, so why I'm saying that is that if you're in Sydney or Wellington or Durban or London or wherever you might be, don't switch off, because I think this is going to be important. So based on that, Louise, my first question is, you talked about interest rates before, and this really interests me. What will a federal interest rate increase do to the market?
Well, we have just experienced something, Ray, that maybe your listeners in these other countries may not be aware of, but certainly the world was watching our chaotic elections. Mm-hmm. And we were all, I think, very surprised. Whether you're for Trump or against Trump, he has been good for business to date.
Okay.
We know that we needed a change. We needed a change from the interest rates that we had sort of been suppressing since 9/11. We've been suppressing the interest rates because the housing market has been, has what's given our economy the traction.
Yep.
For every transaction that happens, it touches 11 jobs. Think about that.
Wow. Yeah, that's a lot.
And we are looking at 6.3 million transactions in 2017.
Okay.
And that is job security. That's wage growth. That's economic, growth. That is also confidence. So we had people not making decisions because they weren't sure. September, really that started at the beginning of 2016. So we had a lagging, elongating sales cycle. And September, there was October and November, a bit of a pause button. And now today, interest rates have been that push that have taken people off the fence, especially the first-time buyer, that $500,000 to $3 million buy that wants to buy as long as they can for as cheap as they can. Because even though interest rates are still at record lows, you can buy more today than you can tomorrow if you buy today.
Yeah. Well, interest rates are probably as low as they've ever been in our lifetimes, you and me. I mean, it's
in July they were 3.55%. Today they're hovering around just shy of 4%.
Okay, so is that going to push prices up in the coming 12 months?
I think what it's going to do is it's going to push competitive bidding for well-priced property.
Okay. When people
and there's
realize,
a difference in that.
Yeah.
There's a difference in that.
Yeah.
And this has been going on in cities outside of New York, and I think this is where we're going to find your listeners who are, foreign investors who want to look at the standard New York City, Los Angeles, Miami, San Francisco, with prices that have elevated as we've experienced. Some of those investors are saying, you know what? Let me look at Nashville. Let me look at Austin. Let me look at Portland. They've got like a groovy music scene and food scene and tech scene happening in Austin. Nashville has become, from where I grew up there and where it is today, it's very cosmopolitan.
Yeah.
They have a professional hockey game, professional football team. These cities don't have to be these four anchors that people have been drawn to.
Yeah.
We're really expanding our global presence.
And what about the huge markets? And I know you've got an opinion on this, and I'll just, I don't know what percentage these two groups would make of the market, but I think it would be substantial. The baby boomers and the millennials. How will those guys drive the market?
Incredibly. I mean, the millennials have recovered from the Great Recession of 2008 remember, this is our first generation where literally instead of a pacifier, they grew up with an iPhone.
Yeah.
So how these kids, it's true, but how these kids navigate and do everything from buying a car, buying a mattress, buying an apartment, getting a job, meeting a wife or a husband. I mean, it is incredible.
Raising a family. Yeah.
It is incredible what they do in this technology environment. And they are representing what used to be, in 2015, 25% of our market.
Yep.
It's now 30%, but the baby boomers are the sleeping generation. We are going to find ourselves this year where we can expect this generation to transact not once, but twice. Just what I just experienced.
Yep.
I sold my clients apartments 10 and 15 years ago. They've got places in Florida, places in Belgium, and they now are downsizing their New York footprint. And they're going to put a lot of money in the bank and buy a little piece of the rock.
Nice. Well, it's hard to talk about Manhattan and real estate without talking about the new president. Have you got any New York celebrity encounters that you can share?
Oof. Well, I sat next to Kate this morning at breakfast. Kate Blanchett. What's her name?
Yeah, she's an Aussie actress.
Yeah, Kate Blanchett. Yeah, I love her.
Yeah.
Well, I just wanted to pretend I was having breakfast with her, just between you and the listeners. But I think she's doing a play here. It's fun. I used to just be head over heels when I ran into someone. And now I think I've become just a real New Yorker because I've sold apartments to people that, are movie busters that I probably think my confidentiality won't allow me to say.
Of course.
But yeah, they're just people just like us. And my experience is there are a couple of them that come with quite an entourage. But for the most part, they just like you and me.
Yeah, interesting.
And they want a home.
Louise, who are your heroes?
I'm talking, I have a lot of heroes.
Professionally and in life and just general. Who inspires you?
I would say my first inspiration would be my mother. And then my father, as far as, and I've lost both of my parents, and they actually died on the exact day, 20 minutes from the exact moment, 15 years apart.
Oh, no way.
And I like to think, and I had met my husband 10 days before, so I like to think that my mama sent me my angel and took back hers. But my mother was a connector. I watched her all my life welcome people into Nashville, Tennessee, and connect them to all kinds of cultural and individual and people, and she just went above and beyond her call of duty to make someone feel at home. And I like to think that that's some of her essence that I try to live and hold. And my father was, a minister's son, and he did millions and millions of dollars on a handshake, transactions and deals, and had just endless integrity. And those are the two people that I hold in my highest. And I would have to say that next one would have to be my husband, because he
just in case he's listening.
Well, but he is.
What's your husband's name?
My husband's name is Christopher Malcolm Forbes. And
hi, Chris.
Hi, Chris. He is first and foremost, a beautiful human being, but an amazing father. And he celebrates me for just who I am and is my biggest fan. And I think that to have people that you admire and become your role models and have the blessing to have them from your childhood. And from a professional standpoint, I would say, Barbara Corcoran.
Yeah.
Barbara Corcoran is a woman who was probably the first visionary to realize that real estate companies are their brokers, and that she was all about making the box as big as she could for those individuals instead of putting them in a box.
Yeah. Have you met Barbara? You'd have to, wouldn't you, in New York City?
Absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely. She's the first person, we would have our annual every year. She would come and work for me, Louise. Why don't you come and work for me?
Yeah.
And she was the first one that said, okay, what's your gross commission? What's your average deal? How many transactions? And I was like, I should know this stuff, right?
Yeah.
And
she's straight into it.
She's just bigger than life, and I'm so happy for all of her successes because she's quite an inspiration for women, and from somebody who came from not an easy life,
no, humble beginnings.
You celebrate, and she's a kind woman.
Yeah. My next two questions I could probably combo. What are your passions and what keeps you sane?
Ooh, what keeps me sane? Well, passions, I'm going to start family and surfing.
Really?
So
where do you like to surf?
Well, I surf all over the world. I haven't been to Australia. There are a little too many shark attacks there.
Or sharks, as we call them. My Canadian wife Christine calls them sharks.
Sorry, you're sure she's not from Boston?
No, she's from Toronto. But yeah,
my husband's Canadian too.
Oh, okay. Where's he from? Where's Chris from?
Winnipeg.
Ah, nice. Winnipeg. Oh, they're having a brutal winter this year. So I guess you've surfed Hawaii.
Oh, multiple times. And my two children, who are 11 and 13, we got into surfing because when my son was 5 years old, he walked out on the beach and followed his finger down the surf line, and some guy was on a board, and he's like, I want to learn to do that.
Nice.
And we threw him on a board, and we've been surfing 8 years now.
Yeah, interesting. Oh, some amazing places to go. So, well, I wouldn't be afraid of going to surf in Australia. I mean, you're a real estate agent. When it comes to the sharks, it'd be mutual respect, wouldn't it?
I don't know. I'm going to have to get you out in the water with me, and we'll see. You'll take me to the spots.
Oh, I'd love to. I know some great surf breaks, and I know some. If I chicken out, I've got some good contacts that can take you there.
All right, fair enough.
Tell me, let's get a little bit negative because we can learn from this. Have you got a professional or business mistake that you've learned a lot from in your experience?
Business mistake. Well, I think that there are two that I could say. One, I've mentioned both of them. Embracing your colleagues. When I was, a young, hot shot, immature gal when I started in the business, I think that I didn't appreciate the value of my colleagues.
Yeah.
Because when we start, we kind of feel like, okay, it's me against them, but it doesn't have to be that way. There's plenty of business for everyone. And if you treat people the way you want to be treated, you will always win.
Yeah.
So,
it's a great philosophy to live by.
That would be one of my early mistakes. And the other was not embracing, the marketing component and investing in it like a small business instead of, being afraid that it might be wasteful, because it's the right business decision for myself, for my teammates, and most importantly for my clients.
Yeah. In your team, do you have buying agents and various assistants that work in different roles?
Well, my business is a little bit different than maybe some other teams. I don't really know how mine kind of evolved, naturally and organically, where I do have, we're a team of 7 people. I have a business manager who does all the back end, deal summaries. We don't write our own contracts,
right,
but we have offering plans and board packages and questionnaires that need to be answered by the building to learn what kinds of policies they are. So I have a business manager who is a full-on CPA, and my business is a $150-200 million business a year.
Uh-huh.
It's and so he has his hands full. I have a director of marketing and PR, which is Rich Johnson, who's been with me for 8 years. Stealing him a little bit first into being a broker, and then really morphing into understanding that I need a full-time position for that launching of these listings, because we do 70 to 90 transactions a year.
Let me just butt in there for a sec, because I meant to ask that when we were looking at that Upper West Side listing, the 4.8. Is he responsible for styling that and setting up the photos and balancing the light and the colors and just making that image really pop?
He does. I rely 100% on Rich. He's very good.
Yeah.
You can go listing after listing after listing, and even in my sold and closed, you will see that, if you keep scrolling, you go down, hundreds of transactions, you'll see when Rich was not with me.
Yeah. It's that obvious.
Well, I mean, listen, it's an art. I mean, I mean, that. And why not have the best?
That just cut out again. That just cut out there. Say that again.
I'm sorry. I said I am really, really good at what I'm really good at.
Yep.
And why not have the best in something as important as your first impression?
Yeah. Yeah. What a great point.
Secondly, I have my right hand, Jonathan Schultz, who is in charge of really managing our exclusive interfacing, meaning we do the analysis when somebody says we're going to list our apartment. He launches the process of putting together a very, very analytical data, which is inclusive of things that are not just on the market, what buyers are looking at when they come to look at this home, but what's in contract and what is it in contract for. That is not public information, and that takes time and that takes relationships to get that information.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then, and I do a lot of development work. I mean, I have built or converted 30 buildings. So I have a big portion of my business is that I am a developer's broker.
Yeah.
So I do the marketing for these projects. And so Jonathan spearheads that with me. And Jason spearheads our buyer pools. So because most of my business are my personal relationships, I partner with Jonathan on exclusives with my friend or my clients. And I partner with Jason for and with the buyers. And then we have a team assistant, which is somebody who supports all three of us and also is a salesperson.
Yeah.
So we divide and conquer pretty efficiently, like a well-oiled machine.
It sounds like it. Do you use a real estate CRM or software program to hold it all together?
We have our own, it's called The List.
Okay.
And it is
Sounds pretty high tech, Lou.
The List.
Yeah.
And it is something that I literally developed just because I couldn't carry around my files anymore.
Yeah.
And I was not as technically efficient as I would have liked to have been. We are about to move that all online, which will just rock my world.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because who
are you going with? Do you know?
I don't even know. And the good thing is I'm not in charge of that.
Okay.
I just do what I'm told. And when I don't wear my high heels, they boss me around.
Fair enough. Fair enough. Okay. Everybody's got their roles, it sounds like. Let's move towards wrapping up, because I'm sure you've got a very busy rest of the day to jump into. What advice would you give someone looking to get into real estate, or somebody who's in real estate but really needs to reinvent themselves and really wants to jumpstart their results? What advice would you give?
Ray, I have met with and had coffee with and brought in, I would say, at least 70 people into the business of real estate in my 27 years.
Yeah.
And for all those very established and new, it is so important to give back and to take the time to extend a hand to someone who's trying to figure it out, because when they figure it out, they're going to be on the other side of the negotiating table, and they're going to remember when you took the time.
Yeah.
As far as reinventing yourself, it goes back to those basic principles that for myself and my philosophy is, my secrets to my success. 1 was my work ethic. 2 was really believing in the bottom of my heart that I am an educator. I'm not a salesperson.
Yeah.
And I also believe that my home is where the rest of my life is built from. So if I live by those virtues alone, then I know who I am. So I'm not saying find my philosophies or use my philosophies, but find yours.
Yeah.
Because sometimes we get lost in trying to compare ourselves to other people's business and compare ourselves to what somebody else is doing, and be true to what feels right for you.
Yeah.
I mean,
I think that's good advice.
I didn't have a lot of money. I mean, I had $800 when I came to New York City, and I would have people, we had to do these terrible things called board packages where you literally kill a tree and it has your tax returns and it has, 900 letters of references and all your financial statements. And it's a book by the time you're done with it.
Yeah.
And I would have people to my house, because Lord knows we couldn't do it at work and during the day. I would make pasta and a big salad, and we would sit at my dining room table and we would do it together.
Yeah.
And time is one of the greatest gifts we can give our clients.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's terrific advice. And my final question was the top 3 things that make you successful. I think you've just told me what they are. So thank you for that.
Yeah, I think it would. It's keeping it simple. Work ethic. Treat people the way you want to be treated, and having a philosophy that you can own. That you live, because I really do feel that I am a matchmaker. There is a chemistry that happens that when someone walks into their right home, they know. It's just like when I met my husband, I knew. When I walked in my apartment, I was showing a customer who told me he thought it was a dump, and I was like, holy moly, I'm going to buy this.
Yeah.
I wasn't even in the market. So we have that chemical reaction that's going to happen. We just need to guide our people.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's good advice. Well, Louise, thank you so much for your time today. You're a breath of fresh air. It's just been, I don't think I've spoken to any NYC power brokers or real estate gurus yet on the show. So thank you so much for being my first.
Thank you.
I would love to have you back.
I love that, and I'll have you in New York and show you the town.
I'd love to come. I'd love to. I tell you what, if you have to fire sale one of those Tribeca apartments, please give me a call.
All right,
I'll be there. I'll be there in a heartbeat. Thank you so much. Congrats on your success, and I look forward to keeping in touch.
Thank you so kindly. Bye, Ray.